Great. So I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Market Briefings on Spain, Italy, and France. My name is Kiley Fithen. I'm the Senior Project Manager at CICan for International Marketing and Recruitment. And we've got a lot of exciting information to cover today, and I'm confident you'll find it valuable for your engagement in Europe. As you know, CICan is hosting an institutional and agent B2B event in Rome, Italy this fall. And if you are not aware, please do feel free to reach out to me and I can give you further details on how to register for that event. But without further ado, I'd like to dive right in and extend a warm welcome to our colleagues who are joining us today from BONARD. If some of you may know, BONARD is a market research and strategic development firm specializing in international education sector, and the company monitors the global flow of students all over from all different levels in different parts of the globe. So I first would like to introduce Lenka Kubasova, who's a Recruitment Solutions Director, and she is now managing and overseeing daily operations at the Recruitment Solutions Department with BONARD. And I would also like to introduce Ivana Luptakova, who is the Recruitment Solutions Senior Manager, and she's responsible for organizing all the B2B events in the international department, and we work with them quite regularly on our B2B activities. So from this point, I would like to invite Lenka and Ivana to go ahead and begin your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Kylie, and welcome everybody. While my colleague Ivana is putting the presentation on the screen, I would really like to thank you very much for joining us today, for sharing your time with us. With Ivana, we are very pleased to connect with you and to share our insights that we collected from the Age Network, combined with student mobility data on higher education sector in Italy, France, and Spain, with a special focus on Canada as a study destination. We hope that you will find this information useful. We will also share our presentation slides as well as recording that will be available after the webinar. And if you would be interested in learning more about these free markets or even alternative ones, we'll also share our contact details with you. As Kylie already introduced us briefly, we are representing BONARD, a market research company, which has over 16 years of experience in the field of international education sector. Within our recruitment solutions department, we focus on providing bespoke, data-driven recruitment and networking events and digital marketing solutions to our clientele within international education sector. We provide these services to our clients, be it the government, study destinations, school associations, or individual education providers across different study levels, be it higher education, high school, or language schools. As Kylie already mentioned, we are collaborating with CICan on the upcoming trade mission to Rome, Italy, and we at BONARD are pleased to provide our agent recruitment as well as event management services. For the purpose of this presentation, we wanted to share with you highlights on the source markets so that you can better prepare for the potential recruitment strategy within this region. Before we proceed with the data, I would like to share with you a plan for today's presentation. We will focus on the development and performance of the mentioned free source markets within the higher education sector by covering the themes displayed on the screen. First of all, we will have a quick look at the list of top source markets for Canadian higher education sector and shortly describe an overlap with other study levels. We will also measure the potential of the selected free source market by identifying the patterns in international student mobility over the past years. In addition to overall data, we will also focus on post-secondary student numbers in Canada, describing the distribution across the individual Canadian provinces. To complement the data part, I will then give the floor to Ivana, who will share our insights into main ongoing trends and challenges that we are learning about from our strong agent connections from Italy, Spain, and France. And to sum it up, at the end, we will share a few recommendations on what should be part of your strategy in the region going forward. I would now like to start with the data on top key source markets for Canadian higher education sector. We are now displaying the IRCC data featuring study permit holders. As you can notice, India remains the strongest source market for higher education in Canada. In China, that follows India, we witnessed drop in student numbers comparing 2019 and 2022 data with 18% decline. Other source markets are underperforming in terms of their year-on-year comparison are United States and South Korea with 6% and 24% decline respectively. On the other hand, demand and student numbers from Philippines increased most. Other markets that outperformed their student levels from 2019 are Hong Kong, Colombia, Algeria, Mexico, Nigeria, and Iran. From the selected source markets, we can see that France is also growing in terms of student numbers, outnumbering its 25% decline that was experienced during the pandemic. Other selected source markets, Italy and Spain, are not in top 15. However, we see a positive development in both markets. Especially speaking of their current performance within the primary and secondary levels in Canada, in accordance with the latest data that were collected by Canadian Association of Public Schools International. Italy is currently one of the top 5 source markets for Canadian K-12. According to the IRCC data, it sent to Canadian primary and secondary education more students in 2021 than in 2019. It was actually twice as much. So we can really see a nice and steady growth. And the same applies to Spain, who is also currently recovering after the pandemic and recording steady growth. From our conversations with agents from across all 3 markets, we learned that educators in the post-secondary sector could really leverage the trust that students and parents gain during their primary or secondary studies in Canada. And Ivana will be happy to elaborate a bit more on that in her part. Moving forward with the student mobility pattern, on this slide, we can see the study permit holders in post-secondary education in Canada, market by market. We can see that all 3 countries show good recovery between 2019 and 2022 for post-secondary education. Italy and Spain deliver rather smaller volumes with 1,110 post-secondary students coming from Italy in 2022 and 1,040 students from Spain. There is really a steady volume, and Spain even reached 120% of their 2019 volumes. As mentioned previously, the strongest market out of these 3 in terms of the student numbers is France, with 22,800 post-secondary students sent to Canada in 2022. It also outperformed its 2019 student volumes by 7% in 2022. On the following slides, you will see the distribution of the post-secondary students in individual provinces. Quebec is traditionally very strong for French-speaking post-secondary students, catering to 76% of all French post-secondary students in Canada. And second most popular destination after Quebec is Ontario, followed by British Columbia. However, volume-wise, the number are rather smaller. When it comes to Italy, there is a much more proportional distribution of Italian students across Canada compared to what we experienced for and witnessed for France. Ontario is their most preferred destination, followed by British Columbia and Quebec. The differences, however, are smaller than we saw for France. Ontario also welcomed in 2022 almost the same number of Italian students as it did in 2019. And Spain, very similar to Italy, is present across the majority of the provinces, with Ontario, British Columbia, and Quebec being the most popular. British Columbia and Ontario are even more popular than it used to be in 2019, whereas Quebec's popularity is at the same level as it was in 2019. With this part, we concluded the data on the student mobility. I would now like to give the floor to Ivana, who will share with you the insights we collected during the recent agent interviews conducted in all three source markets.
Thank you very much, Lenka. I'm happy to share some insights we gathered from agencies. According to agencies, Canada remains in the top 5 study abroad destinations. However, its position is being strengthened. For these markets, the main study abroad destination was the United Kingdom until Brexit. Since Brexit, Ireland has gained some of these students. However, it has reached its limits, and students are searching for placements in alternative countries. American institutions are still quite sought after. The institutions have been very well advertised, and students find the American way of studying appealing and attractive. However, parents often prefer their children to study in more stable, safer, and affordable destination. Hence, Canada has gained significant attention, especially during the pandemic, because of how well it handled this situation. According to our agent network, Canadian post-secondary institutions are not as well known among students, especially in Italy and Spain. Stronger presence and marketing efforts are definitely highly recommended. Education agencies in these markets often operate on a trust basis, as Lenka mentioned. With high school programs being one of the most popular study abroad programs, especially in Italy and Spain, the agents and parents of the minors form sort of a bond and trust. And after such a positive experience, the clients return and search for post-secondary studies in the original destinations where primary and secondary studies were pursued. According to agents, one of the main advantages of Canada compared to other destinations is the possibility of working while studying without getting actual work permit. Domestic labor markets tend to be considered by students weaker in terms of professional opportunities, and studying and obtaining work skills abroad brings more options and potentially a clear path to immigration. In terms of pricing, the tuition can be shocking to some students, as education in the European Union is mostly free or with lower tuition fees based on household income. However, for students who actually decide to pursue education abroad, tuition fees play a key role when deciding about a destination or institution itself. Canada is known for offering more affordable yet high quality education with bearable life costs. And this is often the deciding factor when students choose between the United States and Canada as a study abroad destination. Also, agents tend to mention that access to scholarships is also considered highly helpful. The data and insights gathered demonstrated is now the right time for these markets, for Spain, Italy, and France, to conduct a more thorough exploration of Canada and its post-secondary institutions. And specific recommendations for colleges and institutes will be now presented by Lenka. So, Lenny, over to you.
Thank you. We also gathered the recommendations after previous trade mission and communication we had with the agents from the mentioned market. Firstly, they really recommend for us to focus on providing quality and also guarantee the availability of student accommodation. We all know that it's widely that's the issue spread widely in all other study major destinations, but we keep hearing it again and again. Secondly, we learned that counseling services and support to students, being it mental health support, as it's getting really named more and more often. Also, the need of building the trust in between the agents and educators. They also recommend to adopt alternative market strategies. So, as I mentioned, after the trade missions that we organize, we also collect feedback from participating agents. So this is like generally a spread recommendation, not only from agents from Italy, France, or Spain, but it's applicable worldwide. They really want educators and international student recruiters to focus more on marketing initiatives, maybe supporting it with the translation of materials into the local languages, also advertising in their local media, or more social media presence from educators that should really be part of your strategy going forward. In addition to that, to really stay ahead of the volatile international aspects, political or economic, we would recommend diversifying your recruitment strategy into 3 levels of source markets, those that are really well performing. So maybe getting back to our first slide, the top source markets like India, China, Philippines, France, and Iran should really stay a part of your regular and frequent communication with agencies. In addition to that, your focus should be also on connecting with source markets that show signs of growth. In our case, Italy and Spain are a great example. But in addition to that, we really should not avoid active promotion and cooperation with source markets that are actually and currently emerging as a markets for international student mobility or for individual study abroad destination, be it Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia, that actually also records some nice year-on-year progress. So to sum it up, your strategy has to really reflect the needs of the specific region you are aiming to focus on or explore, but to really mitigate any risks in terms of diversifying the student population, it would be great for you to have this in mind going forward. We had a close look to 3 stable source markets from Western Europe, Italy, Spain, and France. And as we learned during the initial agent, the recruitment phase, there is a steady and reasonable demand to learn more about Canadian post-secondary sector, to meet with Canadian colleges and institutes, as it really helps to diversify the portfolio of agents and provide more and more choices for students that keep coming to their offices with more and more inquiries for alternative education in Canada. Therefore, we really believe that in-person tours and missions represent a key strategy going forward to develop and promote the diversification of the student population from the selected markets. I hope that you would find CICan Trade Mission to Rome a unique opportunity to connect with selected agencies from the region and engage in one-on-one meetings. On that note, we are currently in the process of recruitment of the agencies that started just a few days ago, and we are very happy to see the immediate feedback from the agencies. It's really positive. We already have received 8 registration. Agents' decision making, however, is also based on the list of participating institutions. So they're also really looking forward to maybe meeting some of you in Rome. So I hope that the presentation gave you a tiny bit more of an overview what potential lies in Western Europe as a source market for your further recruitment strategy. I would now like to pass over to Kiley if she has anything to comment in terms of the trade mission and the registration process for individual educators.
Great. Thank you so much for that presentation and that summary. I just noticed before we speak quickly about the trade mission, there were some questions in the chat. And I'm just seeing here. So first, pardon me. is if there's any question, any plans to include Albania in addition to France, Italy, and Spain in future reports or presentations. So looking at that information, I can comment quickly. So for all of the CICan member institutions that are you're part of our organization, we have IRCC data that's available to you. So if you have a specific adjacent market that's of interest, I'm happy to share that IRCC data, which is typically the number of study permit requested. It has approval rates, and it can break it down by province, and we can give you your institution's specific data. So I can also provide that for you based on all of these markets that we've discussed today, but I can give you a larger picture of that. And if you would like to include some data about Albania, please do feel free to just send me an email and reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide that for you. And then I think the other question, we had another question, if the PDF will be available. Lenka, if you're able to provide that to us, we can share that.
Definitely, we will gladly share. And as I mentioned, the session should have been also recorded. So maybe some of you joined us a tiny bit later. And as we had the quick start to the presentation, we can share the recording with you as well.
Excellent. Another question is if you have a data breakdown on study levels for France in terms of university, college level, maybe K to 12.
Not currently, in front of us, but again, you can definitely reach out to us and we can provide available data that we are currently collecting, but will be also updated in the upcoming few weeks.
So, and in terms of Canada, so that data that we have from IRCC, we do have that broken down on study level. So we have it from university demand, college level demand, and K to 12, as well as language programs. So if there's something specific that you're looking for in terms of the typical demand, I can say that in the past in this region, just from the data that I looked at yesterday, reflecting on the first quarter of 2023, typically demand has been higher, as you might know, for university education, and often doubled of what we see in terms of demand for college education. In the first quarter of 2023, we've seen that inverted. So now we're seeing double the demand for college education relative to university education in some of these markets. So that's interesting, and I'm happy to actually send out to all of those who are participating today just a breakdown on what some of the trends have been for study permit approvals. The approval rates are fantastic, really high, and I think it's just a matter of shifting that demand, not shifting the demand, but sharing knowledge about what the college system in Canada has. In my most recent conversation with the trade commissioner in Italy, she was really expressing that they don't have this sort of level of education available to them, or it's not well known. Typically, students go to universities, or there's sort of a smaller kind of TVET system that is less common, but our system is so dynamic and really connected to local industry that this is something that is a real of interest to students who are now looking for programs that will result in modernized career opportunities with high levels of employability. So that's something to really keep in mind, and that's something that we're working towards. So that just a comment there. I'm just going to look down at a few more questions here. Okay, and a little bit. Wait. So around the Rome event, so we're working right now, like I said, closely with the Trade Commission Service on identifying the appropriate institutions for partnership visits. As well as some connections with the Ministry of Education in Italy. I know Lenka and her team are hard at work identifying the agents from the 3 different markets. So there will be agents from France, Italy, and Spain that will be represented at the B2B. The event will run from September 18th to the 21st, with the B2B event held on the 20th. Lenka, you can confirm that is correct within that schedule. And that will allow some buffer time. I know there's some adjacent events. So EAIE is happening the following Monday, I believe, or directly after that week. And there's some other events I've also heard of it that they're happening in Sweden. So that having the B2B and that date allows folks that have to continue on to other events a little bit more flexibility, and then we will end the mission with some additional institutional visits. So that's the general piece right now. As we're in talks with the different institutions and the trade commissioner, I will release the specifics of the schedule as soon as they're available. But that's generally what is happening. I know Lenka and her team are also in talks for holding the event at the Hilton in Rome, and some further information around rates and travel details will be available once those are finalized. I hope that is helpful. And please do feel free, if you have any specific questions around the institutions that we're considering, or other things like that, please do feel free to reach out directly to me. Are there any further questions in terms of the data that you've seen today? Please do feel free to pop them in the chat.
There is one more, actually, if I may, in regards to the African countries. The question said, I do know the subject is France, Italy, and Spain. Do you have anything about African countries? I saw Nigeria in the first data slide. So you are right, Nigeria is one of the African countries being in top 15 source markets for Canadian post-secondary education. From the other African countries, Algeria is also in top 15, but in terms of other African countries where we see a nice growing potential, it's currently Democratic Republic of Congo, Ghana, and Senegal. These really presented nice year-on-year changes, 90% for Congo, 69% for Ghana, and 72% comparing 2019 and 2022 levels. If you would be interested in further details on that, you can always reach out and we will create the dataset for you and for your specific request.
Great, thank you, Lenka. So I'm just sharing my email address here. Great, and again, you can find my contact information on any of our event pages on the email that I sent out today. You can just feel free to respond to me directly, and I'm happy to provide you with any institution-specific data that you might be seeking regarding study permits and things like that. And Lenka, I know her and her team are always available for you if you have any particular questions. I know that some of you are looking for a deeper dive in terms of how some of these students' mobility might have shifted to different regions within Canada. So there's some interesting questions that she might be able to provide you some insights there as well. But for now, I think that concludes the information that we have. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, please do feel free to reach out with any specific questions, and we're happy to support you, and enjoy your day.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.